Welcome back to Business Live Extra. We're talking to Mr. Christopher Levy, CEO and President of Jamaica Broilers Group, the home of the best dressed chicken and reggae jamming brands. 2020 is a difficult year for many businesses as the COVID-19 pandemic creates crisis likely to lead to lasting change. For the U.S. food production industry, there has been some disruption caused by mass illness. However, Jamaica Broilers is making gains in that market. It operates in 6 U.S. states: Florida, Arkansas, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Georgia, and South Carolina. Operations are spread out so that production of eggs, feeds, and poultry meat is done in different states. Of more than 500 people employed by the company across the US, very few contracted the virus. This has allowed the company to ensure a continuous supply chain and place trucks with chicken at several locations, which has sold off quickly. Let's hear more about the JB Group is bucking business trends now. Chris, welcome back.
Yes, good to hear you again.
How are you and the Best Dressed Chicken doing?
We're doing well.
Great to hear. You can go into a US supermarket now and you'll see the same kind of branding that we have in Jamaica in a potential US supermarket now.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. You can see the brand in certain supermarkets, South Carolina, up in several states. It's hard to keep track because the supermarkets up there will have like 500 stores, and it will be in several of them. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So,
Do you, Chris, do you have to do your own distribution, or do you actually give it to a third party, or it depends?
it's a combination, Mark. We do our own distribution in some regards, and then a larger supermarket chains will have their own distribution centers. So we will draw bulk containers there to their distribution center, and then they will break bulk it to the various stores. So that's why it's a little hard to say, okay, well, it's in this store, that store. I mean, we can find out, but you know. So, and we have sales reps on the ground and folks indoor promoting it and packing shelves, and, you know.
Right.
It's exciting.
And where do you, when you're in, say, your US board meeting, where do you think you're stacking up compared to, just some of the big names like a Tyson? I mean, are you 5% of them? Are you, where do you think you are now?
Well, let me put it this way. We are very small compared to Tyson or Pilgrims. When those guys move, it's like tide. But we're not a bad size, and I think what our plans are for the US will certainly put us on the radar.
Okay, and do you see it, Chris? Does this expand more? Does this go bigger than where you are now? Bigger than, say, these 6 locations? What's the long-term plan for this operation?
Well, I think, Mark, what we're looking at when we purchased South Carolina, the operation there, they were processing about 180,000 birds a week. We purchased this company, I think, about 10, 11 months ago, and we're up about 60% on that already in less than a year.
Okay. So it's kind of a scale up business plan. You're making it more efficient with the Jamaica Broilers management. I mean, you can scale up all these businesses.
We bring a lot of efficiencies to it because of our back integration. But also what has happened is we've really put a lot of effort into the marketing and sales. So our production is just growing aggressively, and customers are enjoying the product and they enjoy the brand. There's a real, what I call identity with the brand, not Jamaican identity, but for some reason folks just look at it and say, yeah, I like how that looks and it feels, and I like the story. And, we tell them about Best Dressed Chicken and that it started in 1958 and we've been feeding people for over 60 years, and the story of, all that we've been through, and they can really identify with that.
Yeah. Does it, so Chris, to that point, does it pull back to Jamaica that this is part of a Jamaica group of companies, or is it a standalone kind of US identity? How does that, does it coincide?
No, it's definitely, we positioned it that it's a standalone US product. yes, we're linked into Jamaica, but it's not an ethnic product. And
Okay.
we deliberately not pigeonholed it in that space.
Okay.
So our strategy is that we do not want to be in the ethnic aisle, so to speak. We want a mainstream brand.
Mainstream brand. Okay. So US is doing well. You have a scaling up efficiency story there. Talk to us about Haiti. You know, Haiti economically, the country has, you know, significant issues. You know, how is Haiti doing on the other side of the spectrum?
Boy, let me tell you, I'll be honest with you, Mark. Haiti, we're going through the fight with Haiti now. A year and a half ago, Haiti was amazing. Our return on investment there was running close to 20%, and it was just we couldn't keep up with the growth. And then the country just went sideways. And from then, we've had issue after issue in the economy in terms of just whether it's rioting, whether it's devaluation, whether it's just on and on and on. The challenge with Haiti is that you want a stable environment because the opportunities are real. But the challenge that we see over the next couple of years is, you know, we're going to be facing some headwinds there. There's no doubt about it.
And do you think is Haiti somewhere where it could be an impairment charge for Jamaica Broilers, or is it something that there's a possibility of exiting the market, or it's something that you're continuing to, you know, maneuver and you're going to stick with it?
No, I think it's way too early to get to that conclusion, whether it's on an impairment charge or even on exiting the business. I think that the opportunity is really good. The challenge, we're selling everything we produce.
Okay.
She's cash flow positive. But when you're constantly chasing your tail with devaluation, you're in a situation that you never really get ahead of the game.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, it's the same thing like we're seeing out here in Jamaica. There's this constant drip of devaluation.
Mm-hmm.
It erodes wealth over time.
So you feel like you're always out in fires kind of over there versus focusing on the core business? Okay.
Yeah. You're always dealing with either price increases or you're dealing with staff increases because there's just a constant devaluation of wealth.
And what are you producing there, Chris? Is it the eggs and the
table
chicken?
Eggs. We do mostly table eggs.
Okay.
At one point, it was a year ago, it was the largest producer of table eggs in the Caribbean.
Okay.
Including Dom Rep, we were the largest in the whole of the Caribbean by far.
Okay. And it's not
we've had to trim production, and I think that. You know, we'll see these things through. I mean, there have been good times and bad times in the history of Jamaica Broilers, and you learn that one of the strengths is the staying power to see it through the hard times, you know.
Any poultry there, or all table eggs?
Small amount, but very, very little poultry. It's inconsequential, you know.
Okay.
But it's 95% table eggs.
All right. And, you know, Chris, roughly, give or take a few, you know, 10 million US, although that's a big number. You know, your market cap now is about 200 million US on the stock market. How you feel about the market cap? You think you're undervalued? You think you're fairly valued on the stock market? You think there's a way to go?
I mean, I think two things on that, Mark. I think that you have a market cap that's linked to a devaluing currency. And there is no way that the share price can keep up with the devaluation. I mean, a month ago, it was worth 6% more than it's worth today.
Yes.
And nothing has changed. And if anything, it's changed for the better. So I don't look at market cap as a benchmark. I think in a devaluing currency like Jamaica and where we are, it's nothing that carries anything of any consequence in that regard. Yeah. In terms of the share price, yeah, I think the market is down hard, and I think that there is certainly opportunities in terms of purchasing shares. I'll tell you, Jamaica Broilers is always a buy. But I do think from a broader perspective, I think that Jamaica Broilers, the share itself, in terms of just the company, is going to be a natural hedge against devaluation. because without a doubt,
Why is that?
earnings,
Why is that, Chris? Why do you think it will be?
because our earnings over time in the foreseeable future is going to be predominantly US dollars.
Okay.
You
And
see,
how is the devaluation so far? The dollar since March is, roughly about 14-15% devaluation, impacting local or just impacting your operations at all? Does it give you any sleepless nights, having this kind of dollar at 151, 152? Or it's not really a big impact for you?
well, Mark, I tell you, we've lived with devaluating and devaluing currency for as long as I know. I'm not a big fan of that policy, especially with this bidding system that they've now put in. If you want to sell something at the highest price, what you do is you put out, you ask for bids. So I think it is not a strategy of wealth creation for the country. I'm not fully aware of all the parameters, but from where I sit, I cannot see the sense of continuing to pursue a strategy that just makes us poorer. And as harsh as that may sound, that's exactly what's happening to our people on a broader basis and our companies on a broader basis. And I feel that the challenge that we face in this new dispensation is that if our policies and our strategy for our country is about creating wealth for our people, and that's not job creation. Job creation is a totally different strategy than wealth creation. And I feel that when you look at it, to just continually chase your tail with a devaluing currency is if you're looking at a 10% devaluing currency, your company needs to be growing, 5, 6%, 15, 16% to have any sort of real growth.
Yes.
And that's just an incredible task to achieve.
And Chris, would you say, you mentioned staying power. I mean, do a lot of Jamaican, businessmen, businesswomen call you and say, Chris, is Haiti a good bet? Should I, explore Haiti as well for my business? I mean, have you also been encouraging persons, over the years to look at Haiti at all? Are you a sounding board for Jamaican businesses going into Haiti at all? As one of the few, Jamaican businesses that have done it, what's it been like?
Yeah, I mean, definitely folks call and ask what's it like, and we sit down and talk about it. And, I think that without a doubt, the opportunities that exist in Haiti are great, but you have a situation where it's especially compounded by this COVID outbreak. I would say the instability in Haiti has risen exponentially. So it's not that I'm turned off of Haiti at all. I think more than anything else, you've got to have a longer view, and you've got to be able to see through the good times and the bad. And, the challenge that you face is that there's always a competition for time and capital, eh? And
Yes.
You're going to think, where do I get my best return? Where's my best investment? Where can I have the biggest impact?
Yes.
For shareholders and obviously for staff. And when you have, we employ roughly about 350 people in Haiti. When you have folks in that environment, it's an extraordinary ask to have people, whether expats or even just Haitians, to be working in that environment,
Got you. That's great, Chris. And we take another break on Business Live Extra. We'll hear about how Jamaica Broilers is supporting local farmers with CEO and President, Mr. Christopher Levy, in just a moment. Welcome back to Business Live Extra. We're talking to Mr. Christopher Levy, CEO and President of Jamaica Broilers. He's an astute businessman and a fearless nation builder. He's calling for greater support for local farmers as markets for food collapse. Jamaica imports $1 billion worth of food every year. He wants to suspend imports of some produce as the country grapples with the fallout from the COVID-19 pandemic. Levy is lobbying to ban ketchup imports to redirect demand for an expected oversupply of tomatoes. He wants the government to act quickly putting in place a policy that will give farmers the confidence to stay in business. Let's hear more with Mr. Christopher Levy. Chris, welcome back.
Thank you, sir.
Boy, how do you think we could really address that, though? Do you think it's practical to ban some of these food imports that persons are making fortunes off of?
The structure of importation of products is very, very important. We can't produce everything in Jamaica. That's not practical. But there's certain things that we can produce here that give us greater depth in agricultural society and the agricultural belt of the country. But without a doubt, it has to be a strategy of the government to say we're going to support this, and here is how we're going to do it. And it can't be words and just no action, because the turnaround time on an investment by the time a farmer takes the decision to invest and actually get crops out is 4 to 6 months. And in that time, if support or something changes in the market landscape, then he's done. And you get back to small farmers and a guy doing a little quarter-acre peppers and this sort of thing. Yes. You don't get real growth and investment because the profitability of it is so small and usually wiped out.
Right. But Chris, you being so, I mean, experienced and wise in the sector. I mean, is the issue, whether the figure is $1 billion US or 1.2 billion US, and isn't it as simple as sitting down with an Excel sheet and getting some public-private partnership, and then there's tons of funds, whether it's between DBJ and many of these different agencies that have the liquidity, and there's lots of, not bringing age into it, but young guys out there who are hungry or young ladies. What's the reason why you think it's really not happening? Is it really a disagreement between the public and the private sector to how to address this long-standing food import bill?
No, I think, Mark, that I think there's a lot of politics involved with it, I'll be quite frank. And I think that the challenge that you face is that you've got to trust the farmers, and it's very difficult to be politically exposed in that space. So there has to be a strategy that the government says, we're going to move in this direction, and that the nation buys into it. And explain what that means, that yes, sometimes tomato prices are going to go up, sometimes tomato prices are going to go down. And the opportunity for growth in the country for it. And let me tell you, even with this COVID thing, what we're seeing here with small farmers in the poultry sector is amazing. The government has reduced the importation of neck and back, which competes directly with the small farmer. And that reduction has spurred such growth in the small farmer segment. We're selling more baby chicks today than we were a year ago. Mm-hmm. And the opportunity for that small farmer to grow and that rural investment and development to take place is exponential impact in Jamaica. But it takes decisions like that. And I want to commend the government for taking the decision. I remember when the minister announced it, and I hope and pray that they stick with it, because we are seeing the impact in the industry. And it's not that we are Jamaica Broilers. We don't serve the same segment in terms of processed chicken meat. We will sell the small farmer the feed and the baby chicks and the various technology in there. But he sells it in his local community, or he sells it at his jerk pan, or he has a cook shop that he runs. And it is unbelievable the growth that we've seen over the last 3 months, I'm going to tell you.
Right. So there was this app I remember the ministry was trying to develop, Ministry of Agriculture, called like the Alex Exchange. And I know the Jamaica Stock Exchange was at one point, I can't recollect exactly, but there was different, maybe even dialogue in the media about commodities exchange. I mean, you think all these things can be realities, Chris, or you think certain things have to happen before that happens, whether it's policies, processes?
Yeah, I think people talk about this $1 billion of imports of food in in a way that, it's a big number. And
Yes.
I think we need to disaggregate that number into what's raw materials, what's not. And then disaggregate it further as to what can be produced here.
What do you call, Chris, a raw material? Just like when you say, like, what's
Let's look at it. I beg your pardon?
When you say like a raw material, you mean like you're talking about like what's like what do you mean when you say what's a raw material in the number?
I think in that figure is hatching eggs.
Okay.
Right? I think corn and soy might be in that figure.
Okay.
You see, so those are raw materials. Yes, some corn goes to cornmeal, right? But the majority of corn used in this country is a raw material.
Okay.
So we need to disaggregate that figure a little bit and then disaggregate it further down into what can be produced in our environment. Things like apples and pears. Great, import those. That does not come, that we can't produce those. And if hotels need it or restaurants need it or some, no problem. But what you don't want to do is say, okay, I can produce Irish potatoes in Jamaica. I'm going to import Irish potatoes or sweet peppers or onions or scallion. Those sort of things.
Right. So those sort of things you're thinking, those should really attract, common sense duties and then support, farmers, whether it's, small farmers, mid-sized farmers, etc., and just get that discussion going and just execute it.
Yeah. The government has to have a strategy that creates space for those guys through good times and bad. Now, look here. Yes, you have a natural disaster. Hurricane blow and crop smash up. Obviously, you can't make a population starve. So you don't die on your sword kind of thing. But you've got to recognize that the opportunity for the country and the deepening of the economy of the country is phenomenal.
Yeah, no, I like that. And Chris, walk us through on that point now. Jamaica Broilers is always doing something, I've found innovative every couple of years. So if you have the US thing, doing well, Haiti, you mentioned staying power. Where do you see, what's next on the agenda for Jamaica Broilers that you can disclose or talk about? You seem like you're always pushing forward. I mean, is it a new sector? Is it a new product? What maybe, is on the horizon for the group of companies?
Well, I think, Mark, right now, I'll be honest with you, what's on the agenda now is just continuing to see the company through these times with this outbreak. The country, Jamaica land, I'm here speaking about Jamaica now, is it's almost too dynamic. The country's open, the protocols change, this happens. And look here, they're good arguments and we can understand that. But what that does, it creates an environment where you kind of say, all right, listen, let's slow this train down. We're looking at investments that are more strategic rather than tactical. And let's try and see what this thing looks like in 6 months' time. What we are seeing in the interim 6 months and what we're seeing now is the tremendous opportunity that's facing us is these small farmers that are growing. And that's why I'm so hot on it. And I think that the opportunity is here for Jamaica to change her trajectory. The country can see this as an inflection point where we have an opportunity through this crisis to come out a better country, a stronger country, and one that understands what it takes to get us back on, well, not back on track, but what I would call get the economy growing again. The economy of this country is too fragile to be the constant beating stick of various governments over many, many years. And I do feel that we were on a very good track before this outbreak, but we need to recognize that this outbreak has just created another opportunity for us, not a setback. And I think that's how we are viewing it in Jamaica Broilers. Yeah. What's the opportunity out of this?
Chris.
And they will come and we'll see them and we'll capitalize on them. So our whole perspective is not one of fear, like I was saying at the beginning. It's one of hope, and we're looking for opportunities and we're looking to move forward. And we're excited about the future.
That's great. Chris, it's great talking to you about Jamaica Broilers and food security today. Thanks for joining us.
All the best.
That's it for another edition of Business Live Extra. Remember, business has only two functions, marketing and innovation. We've been talking to Mr. Christopher Levy, CEO and President of Jamaica Broilers. Don't forget, you can watch us online at cvmtv.com/business. Thanks for joining us.